But it was the second guy later on. He was just moaning and whining like he was in fucking hell or something. He was like, oh my God. I want to go. I don't want to be. And it's like, he was in a fucking dark place. Then the fucking facility guy comes up, starts like holding him. Then like the shaman comes over. Then it's like shamans fucking hold him. And it's just collective like buddy thing, and just like buddy trying to like hold and like buddy reassure. And it is, but he got the lemon juice. He was in a bad way, and I don't think he did the ceremony again after that. And so one of the guys who was most looking forward to it basically just got absolutely KO'd. But he did say he had quite a significant experience.
All right, I'm sitting down with Doyle. It's been a long time, hasn't it, since you've been on the podcast?
Last year, maybe. It was early last year, I think.
Fuck. So way before you went away?
Yes.
So
it was with Gaz, wasn't it, downstairs?
Yeah, well, you just quit your job, I think.
No, I was still working at that point. I was still
yeah.
but I saw the photo of me on it. I looked like fucked. Really fucking white and pasty.
Nice. So you quit. So talk us through. You worked for how long?
Oh, just under 2 years.
And that was after how long of an absence?
4 or 5. 4, a little bit.
Right. Okay,
I had done some work, like some part-time work in between, but not a full-time job, like all in, obliged to be there all in every day.
Yeah, so let's think. So we went traveling in 2012. You came away.
Take your word for it.
Yeah, you came away with us in 2012, met us in Vietnam. How long were you away for on that trip?
I'd been back and forth a few times that year because I'd done, I think, Europe a little bit. I've been in North America with you guys before that. Asia, then I came home, then I went back to Asia. So, I don't know, it's like 6-7 months. But like over the course of, over about 3-4 years, I was away for about 2 years-ish, on and off. Like I said, it wasn't for one block. It was kind of coming back a few months, then go away, come back, go away.
So you had 2 years. So you had 2 years away, roughly, and then 5 years off.
Pretty much while working.
So for every year off.
It's not quite 5. God, I'm trying to think of it. So if it was 2, so I started 2017.
13,
yeah, so it would be 4 or 5 almost.
Okay, so let's say for every year of work, every year away, you have 2 years off. So you've just been away for 3 months. So that means you have got, what, 6 months off now, minimum?
Pretty much. Well, I'm already 3 months in. Another 3 months in. I'm just like reaming it out as long as possible. I'm just like, I'll start work next week.
Yeah. The initial plan was the start.
Then I've delayed it. Then basically I've gone back into my overdraft a bit. So all that kind of, I wouldn't say hard work to get full cycle. And like, but I saved about 12 grand just before I left. And that's pretty much all gone now.
Such is the way we're traveling, though. Once you get away, you're like, oh, hang on, this is who I am.
Oh, God.
I remember who I am.
But I was already kind of planning to go back like before I even left. And that's not a bad thing. But to be honest, I haven't worked as hard as I should to be going back as early. And I think the fact that you said you're going away later in the year next year has kind of delayed me a little bit.
Yeah,
Egypt.
So I'd like to
Egypt.
I'd like to make a few small trips this year, but this year I'm mostly going to be in the UK, and then after that I'm moving to Canada for like 2 years. So that's when I'm going to be like, okay, let's go on a trip here, let's go on a trip there. But this year, we were talking the other day about, let's just go to Scotland and see. The trouble with Scotland is it's full of Scots. Let's go see some Braveheart historical
It's beautiful,
stuff.
but even the Lake District north of here, even going over to places like York, but Edinburgh, and like, that east coast of Edinburgh is really nice. I think we had a wedding there a few years ago. I haven't explored it as much as I should. To that's the UK in general. I think I kind of realised that when we went away, or I went away with Andre. I think he came over to the UK and we hired a car over like 3 days. We did a lap. I think it was North Wales, some of the castles, then down Wales on A roads, which was a disaster. Went to Bristol.
Why was it a disaster?
You're doing 40 miles an hour. Then it got to nighttime. Then it was raining, and then we were splitting driving. And then Andre, an Australian, used a big automatic on a big straight road on a very twisty, tight Welsh road. And so we've got 80, 100 miles to go. And you're not really going in a straight line. And so when I had to go in the car, he was basically bricking it. Basically just braking into corners. So it's accelerating relatively hard and just braking into corners. But the rain coming down and the visibility, he was just tensing up in the side. Like, then I was just slagging him off for ages. Then he's got this lazy Australian style. So it's one hand. And basically, one hand down here. Then it's just nothing. Then I'm like, dude, you can't do it on these roads.
Because he's used to straight roads, automatic car, one hand here, 100 kilometers all the way, and a vasectomy. It's pure safety the entire way. That's the problem, isn't it? Because I came back here, and I've been driving around a little bit. And compared to driving in like America or Canada, where you've just got like, you know, to go to the local Walmart, and there is a local Walmart, you get on like a 10-lane highway, you know, whereas here, it's like a fucking, I keep saying it's like an episode of Postman Pat. You're like up and down these hills and tucking in behind cars. You're sharing the road with all the parked cars.
If you do that Welsh drive is exactly like that. And you're kind of coming across, you're basically almost zigzagging down the country, but it's from B to C road, so single carriage. Well, it'll be it'll be 2 lanes, but relatively tight. And so you wouldn't really want a truck or anything big down there.
Yeah, when we were in India, we did like the equivalent of like the A road and stuff like that. But it was lovely because it was coastal.
That's one of the main reasons for that. Well, when you've got the medieval layout of the actual traditional UK kind of towns, but it's land rights. So you had lots of private landowners in between places. So when they were building these roads initially, it was just, all right, come around here, go around there, go around there.
Yeah.
So to respect like the various little kind of fiefdoms, you've got these kind of zigzagging lines, whereas in Australia, America, so much space, you can literally just plot it as a straight line.
Fiefdoms? What does fiefdom mean?
Oh, God. So it'd be in scale below that of kind of kingdom, I think. So effectively, if you'd have one of his like lieutenants or like knights or something, he could set himself up with his own little kingdom, but he's still a feudal lord. But he's essentially king within that little that little area. But he has to acknowledge the lord above him.
He pays homage.
But fiefdom, it might be in the context of using that, but just abusing that power and just like rinsing a place. So I kind of got in, and it was my own personal fiefdom. So I was a little king in this area, and I just had it all. Well, I had a lot of the money and resources.
Right. Fuck. So yeah, you're 3 months into your 6-month break before going back to work. Do you reckon you can go another 3 months without working?
No. I had to sell a little bit of Bitcoin the other day when it was like really low price, which fucking sucked. But basically, it's just my fault.
Yeah.
But I bought last year when it was significantly lower. Kev didn't realise that. I was buying when it was like 3.8. Some more at 4. Then I think the last I bought was like below 5. So even when I sold a little bit the other week, it's not too bad. Yeah,
so let's see, when you plan your next escape, you need to... How are you going to mitigate this from happening? What have you learned from that? Because if you wanted to come back and have some money saved and get back into work,
Well, it was more fundamental. I've been thinking a lot, a hell of a lot about this, to be honest. I'm giving myself as much time.
A lot of people listening to this want to go and do
one of my reasons for going
travel
on the ayahuasca trip when I was there is to try and come up, like many men are in the West generally, is come up with a purpose in life. So am I happy to basically live alone and just be in my own curiosity, where I can just, on a daily basis, you can read or just do anything online, where you just your own and you're curious, and he goes, or to have a family, and he goes, that was the fundamental and still is the fundamental decision. Well, no, it is a decision, and he goes, but I was somehow wishy-washily hoping I was going to get just some kind of answer, like it was just going to plop out of the air somewhere I was on it, and it didn't. But I'm still essentially in that position. One of the reasons I haven't kind of jumped in it now is I don't see myself... Well, evidently, if I was serious about it, I'd be saving money for a family right now. But the fact that I'm not means that's not... Well, it's not particularly likely, or I'm not trying to make it happen. So I'm not really even trying. And so my reason to come back and work hard now, initially the idea would have, all right, I would have come back, work, emigrate, and then try and get settled down. But to answer the question is I haven't fully come up with an answer. I'm not committed to work and stay here because there's nothing really for me here. In the same sense, I know deep down, I think there's probably going to be problems for a lot of people when they get older if they're single. And potentially, if you get to 50, 60, 70 and you're single, I mean, there's issues. And he goes, as that Norwegian fellow was saying the other day, and he goes, the day, I think it was his child was born, he effectively became a man. And he goes, so before that, we defer responsibility, kind of gaming, where you can travel, you can do sports, you can withdraw from life and society and sit in a room, which essentially a large part of the West now, the male demographic, a third, a half, are starting to come to that. So you've got areas now where like a third, 40% of men have never been married. And that's like a fundamental change going on. So what are these dudes doing? And he goes, I'm one of them, essentially. I might be fortunate in the sense that I've got a pretty curious mind, so I can kind of entertain myself. But ultimately, that curiosity will eventually die and wane. And what were you left with then? And the answer is nothing. Well, potentially depression and all those negative things.
So you went to South America. I unfortunately didn't join you on this trip. But where did you start?
Oh, God. Cancun. Well, basically, for the start, I only really I decided to go or pull the trigger a few weeks before. So my preparation was lacking. So compared to my Asia trip, I remember when I went to the Philippines, I went through the syllabus of the school, history kind of program. So I'm like looking at various things, like trying to get into the local history. And just none of that before this. My preparation was lacking. So I just booked a flight to Cancun. I think the connection from Cancun to Lima was cheaper rather than doing it in two, so that's what I did.
You had a bit of time in Cancun.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to stay there, so I booked 3 nights, which ended up being a mistake. I got blagged into getting nice accommodation, and I didn't want it. I was looking at hostels, but the hostels were in the main kind of city, and people disappear and get their heads chopped off in the main city. I think on the way back, the head of police was abducted and got beheaded in Cancun. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, all right, I want to be at a hostel, even though you're not quite in it amongst that. The main strip is away from the city where you've got 10 really nice resorts. And I picked one of the slightly better ones. I think I held on. So I booked the accommodation maybe 5 hours before I left. Mm-hmm. I'd only booked the flights and insurance, various things, literally hours before. I'm holding on. It might be a sweet deal. It'd be like, I might get a $500 room for £10. Didn't happen. It worked out, it was $200 a night, 170 something I paid. Whereas if you turned up, but I got 3 nights for $510, and I just didn't enjoy it. It was far too hot. I hadn't seen the sun properly in about 2 years, so I hadn't taken my top off, hadn't sunbathed, no shorts, maybe a little bit in work, legs, basically arms and basically face. But I got really badly sunburned in about an hour on the first day.
Fuck.
So basically then I screwed. So I went out, sunbathed. I think there's a photo on it where you just see me sweating and then getting redder and redder. So I got massively sunburned on the first day. Next day I was just basically in pain. And then I went to the gym because I hadn't been to the gym in almost 10 years. And this is the one I told you with the girl.
So go on, explain
eminently
what
sensible. It's retarded. So going in on my own, just really sensible, just tiny weights, just 6 kilos, just slow definition. I haven't done anything in a decade or anything.
Got a shoulder issue?
Yeah, so it's really light, sensible. Then 2 hot chicks, American chicks, come in bitty tight, bitty lycra, and then just the weights went up. It's not 6 kilos anymore; it's 18. And basically, I shot myself. But the next day, it felt like I thought I'd ruptured my tendon. I couldn't straighten either of my arms. So both my arms were fixed about not quite 90 degrees, but not far off 90 degrees. I had to push over with one and to manually kind of straighten it, but in essence I couldn't straighten them. So I'm kind of badly sunburned and essentially would lock on.
Oh my god! All because you saw some pussy come in.
Oh, well, pretty much. But yeah, that's completely irrational. But that's what dudes do. Yes, I can't explain it. Shouldn't have done it.
Did they watch you hurt yourself?
Not really. I'm sure I was unimpressed. All that time on a computer, I'm not what I was.
Oh my god!
And by the end, then it's just touristy people, families, and they're all fat, and they've got a few bob. And then I'm sitting there, I'm a backpacker, and it's this isn't me. And I just didn't enjoy it. My money would have basically lasted me a month in Peru, so that's 3 days of misery. It's not quite misery, but not far off.
Yeah,
was a month lost later on in the trip.
You said that you didn't prepare for it, and you said, but I believe that is a pattern for you, because I've heard a story. I've heard a story about you and Gaz going snowboarding, and when he came to pick you up.
For the airport, yeah.
Your washing was still on?
Well, I was in the bath and all my gear for the holiday was wet in the machine.
It
was still spinning in the machine. Then his dad's outside. He was, bloody hell, hurry up. I was going to drive you to the airport. I've got to get back to the pub.
So this is early hours of the morning, right?
No, not particularly. It's 6 p.m. or something.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah, it was in the day. And so we turned up to the resort and it was dripping. I mean, dripping wet.
So all your clothes you just threw them in your bag and checked them?
Yeah, wet. So
you checked the bag?
I checked the bag in straight away. Was that?
Did you check the bag on the plane, or did you take it as carry-on?
It was checked in.
So you handed a wet bag to be checked in?
My backpack was semi-waterproof, so I don't think it seeped through. But the first thing I did is just everything out onto this tiny little electric radiator, which, when you start skiing the first day, you need that to dry all your shit. So I was kind of alternating, trying to dry boxies and or gloves and all the other shit. That's nothing compared to some of the other ones. I've missed flights and all kinds of shit, but I wasn't very well organised, let's say. Spanish was the big one. So, turned up in the airport, Lima, relatively small airport. Get to a desk, kiosk for a taxi, and I'm basically quotes the price. I was like, "Cuánto cuesta?" And it's like, "How much?" And she's like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, don't know what she said. I don't know what she said. Then I realised I could only count to like 5 or 6 in Spanish. It's like, oh no, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco.
They don't speak English, though?
No. And that's when I realised when I was really in trouble. Then she's like, she's not really speaking English. And I'm like, this is the airport. And at that point, I know I was in trouble. So if this is the principal city, there's virtually or very few or relatively few English speakers. It was only going to get worse as you go further out from that point. But I got completely ripped off. My accommodation I'd booked really close to the airport in Boca Negra Sector 5. It was like 1.5 kilometers away. I knew it was 1.5 kilometers away. Get to the desk, and I think they charged me 40 Soleil, which, bearing in mind, I mean, a taxi should be 2 or 4. So they charged me 10x. So it's like charging me 150 quid to get to Liverpool from here. But because I wasn't aware, I just wasn't asked. Then I tipped the guy when I get to the place as well. And he's just smiling.
Thank you, sir.
But that's straight away. The first thing I did is just wrote out the chart, just 1 to 20, and then how you can basically derive all the numbers up to 100. And like, but after that, that goes into the wallet on pretty much the second day.
Yeah.
Walk
That's how you
around.
learn, though, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. But I stayed in basically this shithole area just trying to acclimatise. It was it's just a rough part of Liberty Town. It looks more like Asia, so it's like roaming dogs, workshops. That's the part of town where the cars get repaired. The cars get clean. The trucks come to get their tyres. So you've got hundreds of these little stores doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, India was like that. We went down because I was getting my bike sorted when I was in Goa. So I went to this little town near the main part of Goa, the hippie area, and then I went to this little town. It was just all a dusty road of people barefoot repairing bikes. So there's a point where I got my tires done, and the guy's like stepping on the tire, and I've got it on the video, stepping on the tire in his bare feet and all this stuff. I'm like, fucking hell. But all skilled guys, but they do everything with odds and ends they have lying around. They don't waste anything. Like,
Yes. Well, they're really efficient and far better for the environment doing that. We just throw it away and buy a new one.
The amount of shit that we throw away.
And most people in the West are righteous that they're doing something more or better than these other people, which is bizarre.
Oh, they're up there.
So yeah, stayed in a relative shithole area, walked around, didn't have the balls to buy any local food because I thought I was going to fucking die. So my first meal a day in was KFC.
Nice, I've done that. Yeah, we've all been there.
And it was relatively expensive and it wasn't particularly good, but even ordering it, she's like, blah, 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 blah. So it'd be like side or something. I'm like, oof.
Chicken?
And in the end, I was just, what do you think? And then she's like, there must have been about 5-6 options. So it's like coleslaw, this, that, and the other. What you want with the drink? Didn't understand a fucking word. I'm just smiling like a fucking idiot, just like
Coca-Cola.
In the end, they passed me a tray meal, which was unsatisfying. But after that, I didn't realise how much of a ball ache it is, but it's a large city. It's much larger than I thought. Lima, I mean, it might be 4 or 5 million, but Miraflores, which is the main touristy area, is about 40 minutes to an hour. But if you hit bad traffic, it could be 2-3 hours. And it was relatively expensive to get there. I think I got a taxi, like maybe 30 soles. So it was cheaper still than basically the 2 kilometers from the airport to the place I was staying. But it's still relatively expensive for South America. But Miraflores itself is the old colonial area. It's like really wealthy. So completely different. The people look different. More European, more colonial looking.
Really?
So the ethnicity of the people look different. The actual, you can literally see it. That's where the colonials stayed.
Fuck.
That's the seat of power, and you can literally still see it now today. So from Boca Negra Sector 5 or wherever I was to Miraflores, huge different, and you can still see it. And there's the amount of police. There's JF Kennedy Park there, actually. They're building big things there. But that's where all the hostels are. And again, I didn't really like it. And so in the sense that you're a tourist, and I'm just putting myself in with the local colonials. So I don't hang around with the locals. I'm just going to go to the nice part of town and go to the nice bars and do all this kind of shit.
I'm in Mexico with all my friends going to the KFC.
Annoyed me. Yeah. Although I did actually buy a really expensive meal. And again, I was really hungry one day, walking around for something. Must have lapped the square 3 times. I paid 70 Soleil for a single plate, lomo, saltado, and a beer.
So how much is that?
Just on 20 quid. It's about 40 Soleil for a tenner. And so 70, that's a ridiculous amount. Later on, I was getting 3-course meals in like Cusco for 2 soles.
So Soleil, what's that mean? Sun? Something to do with the sun?
I'm guessing it's just a currency. So
Soleil sounds like sun. Solar.
Yeah, they probably renamed it. So I think there was pesos under the Spanish, because I think that's pretty much they had everywhere in their empire. So I'm guessing that probably came in maybe after independence, Soleil. But yeah, Soleil. But that's not their word for sun, it's something else. It is TT. Oh, I forget the word. Slightly different word that the Inca used for it anyway.
Yeah.
But the Inca went all. Lima was a purpose-built city by the Spanish. It didn't exist before. Whereas the stuff in the south, the Spanish, in some cases, rebuilt on old Inca sites. Rebuilt. So Cusco, the Spanish started rebuilding. They knocked down churches and started rebuilding. But I'm going ahead of myself. So Miraflores. So I got acclimatizing, trying to work out what I was going to do. So at this point, I didn't literally know where I was going to go. I was either going to go south to Cusco in the Sacred Valley, or go north to. I've got to think about it. Place in the jungle. Ayahuasca.
Amazon?
No. Iquitos. Yeah, Iquitos. Iquitos. And they're fundamentally different places. So Iquitos is hot, tropical, jungle, deep. I mean, first time I looked at it on a map, my heart fluttered a bit. I'm like, fuck, that's deep. It's the biggest city in the world without a road connecting it. So you can only
get there?
Yeah, you can only get to it by boat or plane.
That's badass.
It's like 1,000 miles.
That's bad. Yeah. That's where I want to
go. You can do the slow boat up there, which would be a really good way of doing it. I flew. So I'm still in Miraflores in Lima.
Hang on, so the slow boat would go up the...
Yeah, there's Amazon.
Amazon River.
Yeah, the actual Amazon.
That's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. That's like fucking...
It's a good way of doing it.
Apocalypse
I had a
Now
conversation later on where I got belittled slightly by some people who did it, and they basically slagged me off for doing the ayahuasca thing.
Why?
Is, well, if I had the option, I'd do. Well, we did the slow boat, and it's I kind of get what the guy was saying. Is I spent a lot of money doing the ayahuasca, whereas I could have used the same money to do the slow boat.
Yeah.
And he did the opposite, and he had a lot of go at me, but I'll leave him be on that. So in Miraflores,
what was his name? Let's track him down.
Oh, I don't know that one. Basically, hang around the Dutch dude, then start meeting people. There's nobody there during the week, and it was like signed up in a hostel. I'm like, all right, big city. Going to the nice area now. There's going to be people.
This is once you get into Iquitos?
No, I'm still in Lima now.
Okay.
So I hadn't decided if I was going to Iquitos or south at that point.
So Iquitos is the middle of the jungle. Got to get there by boat, or you can fly in.
Northeast.
What was the one in the south like?
Completely. So that's more arid, desert-like. You've got the Atacama Desert directly south.
Wow.
Then coming into high Andes. So the coastal plain. And then, come inland, not that much. You've got really high mountains and multiple liberty points. And so you can either cut and drive across it, or fly, or you come down the coast. But Lima itself, like I said, I went to the main. So Miraflores, the tourist area, is separate from the main central area. So I went to the central area, basically hanging around with a few people from the hostel. Impressive, but it's just a city, really. And it was big, and some of the scale of the buildings was impressive. I mean, but looking at it, it's slightly sullied in the sense that, well, who and what paid for it? Gold and silver looted from these people. That's why it's sweet and grand. And they went building factories here, which used it, which the Brits could argue, is everyone might argue that everything in Britain was somehow built on slavery. Then it's like, no, it was built on the miserable early deaths of all the people who manned the factories in the Industrial Revolution, who got paid peanuts. And that's where the wealth was created. But the Spanish, isn't it? It was a question of going out and taking it in. Then they start to mine and then exploit once they took in everything they could take from the people. So I was about 3-4 days. The only thing of note, there's a Independence Day celebration at the end of the month, and there was thousands of people practicing in bands and dancing groups. Of a nighttime, we'd gone into town and were walking back at 9-10 p.m. on one of these huge squares, which had noise in the background. There must have been several thousand people just dancing, spinning, drums. And that was really cool. Kind of culturally, the people coming together. But even a month before, they were practicing it, and it would have been a big day. I missed that one, actually. I think it was the end of June, I think, Independence Day, 28th, 29th. So that was notable. But apart from that, I had a few really good conversations in the hostel. There's a really smart Russian tech dude who lived in Buenos Aires. Some Swiss, which is pretty cool. There's a large pyramid that excavated actually not far from Miraflores. So there's actually some sites you can look at in Lima itself. But I made the decision to go to Iquitos to get out of the way. The other thing is I actually knew somebody who was there, which is an interesting story in itself, Alex.
This is Alex, yeah. So
Alex it's our friends. He'd been in a really difficult spot in the UK. He was kind of drinking a lot. So, and he was having problems with kind of some drugs in it, so he was in a bad spot. Right? What's that?
So a big his nana died.
There's more stuff going back from his childhood, but I won't get into that. But
he's coming on here next month, so he can talk about.
He'd been in a bad spot. Well, I'll let him do it then. But effectively, he'd been to the camp the year before. He'd gone back out, and they'd seen the condition he'd in, and they kept him there, and for his own good. And he goes, "You can't go back to Iquitos." And he goes, "Left to your own devices, you're going to die."
So hang on, what's the
So
difference
basically,
between
I wouldn't say
Iquitos and
they'd
the camp?
abducted him, but they basically kept him captive in this ayahuasca camp, and that was the clinching factor for me.
What was wrong with him going to Iquitos? Is Iquitos is like party?
Oh, well, no, he'd sold all his stuff in the UK a few weeks before and gone back out. So he'd been there several months before, decided he wanted to leave the UK. So he went back, sold and gave away all his possessions, then flew back to Peru with no plan, no visa, no anything. He just he knew he didn't want to be in the UK. So at that point, I've got a guy on the ground in Iquitos. So he's in this little camp, bloody out in the middle of nowhere, but he can't leave the camp. He's basically, again, he's not held captive, but for his own benefit, they just said, no, you're not really going anywhere. So he was literally captive, which I thought was quite amusing. But so that clinched it. I thought, all right, I've got a dude there. I'll kind of fly out to Iquitos. So looked at the flights, booked it out. Relatively expensive. It was like a 2-hour flight, but it's about $110. I decided to fly a decent airline because I knew, basically it's the Amazon, you don't really want to be flying with some Turkish one and just disappear. So there's a few flights where I flew with Peruvian, who themselves aren't probably that good compared to the European ones, but it was a pretty good flight.
Was it a like propeller plane?
No, it was a tiny jet, so it'd be one of the smallest of the Airbus family.
How many seats are wide? 4?
No, it'd be 6, but it's quite a short cabin.
It's a single aisle.
Yeah. So it'd be so you got 320, A310, 320, maybe short or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're kind of coming in. It's just jungle, looking down, mountains. Well, it's mountains, then jungle. Then it's a lot of cloud. Obviously, you don't see fuck all. But then you start coming down. Then you're coming down. Then it's green all around you. Then you see the moisture in the cloud, which is different from what I'd seen in Lima. It'd been quite dry. And you arrive and you realise how tiny and ghetto the airport is. There's no sealed building with rotating doors. There's a building, but the doors are basically open. So the first thing you feel is just the heat and humidity, like Asia when you get out. So you step out the aircraft and it's like, oh, this is hot. This is much hotter than I thought. Then you come to the terminal building and then it's pretty much open to the elements. So it's not like there's cool aircon in there or anything in there. And you can already see the guys, basically the taxi drivers waiting at the door, salivating at the tourists turning up. It's like, it's just like,
these people don't know the value.
I had a
of
nice
the
one with
dollar.
one of those ones later, actually, because they semi-ripped me off. I've been told you should pay about 15 to 20 soles to get to town. It was like 40, 50 minutes. But the little handheld cart comes out. I don't think it was even mechanized. They're bringing all the shit off the plane. It was pretty basic, but really hot, really, really hot. And step out the door, get my shit together, dripping with sweat already. Taxi guys, tuk-tuk guys are in a frenzy, because that's the thing which I didn't realise, it's tuk-tuks. And because it's so isolated, there's not really cars. It's very difficult to get spurs and things, so a small bike is potentially more reliable and easier to service when you're there. But they've got a favouring, or they've got a liking for Honda specifically. So I stepped out and it's just Honda tuk-tuks everywhere. Then it's like instantly you start thinking of Vietnam, because you can smell it, the two-stroke, the oil, the,
So when
the
you say
fuel.
tuk-tuk, are you talking about, it's not like Thailand ones, it's like basically a bike
it's
with
like
a
a Thai one.
carriage?
No, it's like a Thai one.
Because I remember seeing, when I got to, by the time I got to Cambodia, it was a tuk-tuk, but it was almost like a carriage that was attached to a full bike. So you can see the bike there.
Yeah, there were
Whereas
some
the
like
ones
that.
which are purpose-built in Thailand, where the engine's the same, but the whole shell is built.
They had some like that, but that was more modified for carrying heavy stuff. So you'd have a flatbed in the back, say, if you want to carry rocks or anything in the steep conditions. But yeah, some Chinese kind of ghetto ones.
China.
So journey over, then it's generally 1-2-story shack, very kind of underdeveloped in a sense. Again, similar to Vietnam, like 7-8 years ago. And it reminded me a lot of Asia. It's like 78% there. Make my way across town. Get there all right, and then the old quarter. It's basically on the edge near the water side. You've got a principal square, and then there's several streets which are like kind of older, nicer buildings.
So how big is this city then, the one that's in the middle of it?
Pretty
So you're in
big.
the middle of the Amazon now.
Pretty big, yeah. It's big city. I think over 500,000.
Fuck, that's way more than I thought you were going to say.
It's huge. Like, it's this like, low density sprawl. It was 40-50 minutes just through a city.
So how big are we talking in square miles, the city itself, do you think?
Oh, God,
roughly?
it's difficult to say miles. I would have been using kilometres
Kilometres.
a lot. So to get from, I was maybe averaging, say, 20 kilometres an hour for 40 minutes. So what's that, like a third of that? So it's like 7-8 more. I mean, it's like 7-8 miles at least. God, I haven't worked that out. Basically, I'm not thinking straight. But bigger than I thought. I get to the area itself, and straight away I get targeted by some scammers, and they basically do a really good number on me. It's one of the best times I've ever been scammed, to be honest. And it was all down to timing, luck on their part, and my politeness.
So what's the first thing they do? You get out of the tuk-tuk, and then what do they do?
So the ayahuasca camp I was staying to, they had a hotel which they were meeting at before the camp started, called the Grouchero, El Grouchero, which is an old colonial type kind of hotel. It's quite old school. They had live music there in the day, actually. It was quite nice. But, God, it was almost like something from the Wild West. It was kind of run down, but still kind of, it maybe used to be quite nice. But effectively, I walk up, I basically get dropped off, come in, and a guy approaches me and goes, Capitari, and that's the name of the camp I'm going to be going to. I'm like, yeah, that is the camp, actually. And he goes, hi, my friend, my name is Robert, blah, blah, blah. I'm here, I go to Capitari camp tomorrow, blah, blah. Have you got your equipment for the ayahuasca ceremony? Then I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? He goes,
money.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I have money.
And he goes, no, you need things. And he goes, like, Wellington boots. And he goes, like, you need other things for the ceremony. Very important. And I'm like, I wasn't really aware that I was going to basically need anything. But I just kind of walked away, just like, fine, no. But essentially they'd said, we're going to wait here until you come outside. So I wander off, basically go into my room, check in. It's not a particularly nice room. I mean, very basic, virtually non-existent internet. There's no fiber going out there, so you've got a phone line with everybody in the hotel, and it's really terrible. But I kind of wander out 20 minutes later. The guy's still waiting there for me, and then his mate comes up, and he introduces his friend, and he goes, he's some kind of cultural liaison for the Iquitos ayahuasca experience, making sure Westerners have a good experience, like kind of in Iquitos. And he goes, all right, plausible. But he had a little roll with like paintings and shit in, which straight away made me suspicious. And he had a few T-shirts as well. One of them had said something about it's like farting on ayahuasca or something. Then I looked at it, and I'm like, and I got defensive at this point and said, my friend, I'm not here to buy T-shirts. And he put a good move in the sense that he instantly got offended. He goes, I'm not selling you anything. I don't want to sell you anything. I just thought it was funny. And it was like, basically, as a sense of humor. Then I'm like, all right, I'll let you off with that. But I almost felt a bit bad that but he had initially questioned him harshly. And they said, all right, we'll go to the main market. I'm like, all right, might as well. I didn't have that much money on me. Jump in. It's like a couple of kilometres away, and it's...
So you're getting a tuk-tuk with them?
Yeah, basically in both of them. And basically we just drive off. Went to the main market, and
It's very Thailand soup shopping stuff in it. I take you to this place, and then all of a sudden you owe them something because they've taken you
the key
there.
it was the Capitari. I thought they went for or affiliated with Capitari. And he goes, so when he comes up, points at you, says Capitari, but he knew the guys who were coming there. There was a decently light hood, and he goes, that was the one which got me. So we get to the market, then you've got the food section, and it's like just all kinds of animals. The heat, low top, so it's very hot, sickly smells. And he's going through, that's like armadillo. Then you see like dead skinned armadillo. Then you've got like different snakes and various other things going on. So it's very hot, very humid. You can smell the blood. We're tracking through, get to a point where his mate, his friend's store for the Wellington boots. And try some on. All right, try some bigger ones on. Try some bigger ones on again. And all right, like how much? And he's like $20. So he's not bothering with Solé anymore. We're in US territory. Then I'm like, rubber boot? Sounds a lot. But at this point, I'm a little bit tired, and I know I'm actually going into the Amazon, so I actually probably need them. So it's plausible I need wellies. So yeah, all right, I went for it. So basically, we get the wellies. Then the next thing is you need these Amazonian tobacco, mapacho cigarettes for the ceremony. And he goes, so essentially you need a specialist cigarette of tobacco just for the ceremony. So we go to this stall, and he goes, all right, try this one. It's banana leaf, basically wrapper. He jabs it in my mouth, this big fat thing. And I'm like, oh. And he goes, try this one. And he goes, all these different types. And he starts jabbing these, like, really huge, like, really fat, like, really raw.
Are they lit for you to try?
Not at that point. I'm lighting them, like the cigars. And I'm like, well, that one's all right. I'm like, all right, get to the point. All right, I'll buy some of those. So I need these for the experience. Oh, very important.
My friend.
Essential for this ceremony. And it's like, all right, if it's essential for the ceremony, I'll get some. And it's like, all right, how much for that? And he looks at me, he's like,
$40.
20 soles. Or he's like $20 or something.
We
go into a different stall. So this guy's on soles now. That's a lot. A packet of cigarettes is only about 12. And he goes, for natural Amazonian tobacco. And he goes, expensive. So at this point, I'm starting to basically realise I've been fucked over, or I'm in the process of being fucked over. Then the guy who had the basically what was it, the
Tobacco.
No, the drawing. Sorry, and it's
This is the guy who's been with you since the start.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's another one. Yeah, I had to buy some kind of Florida water. There's something else I need as well, which is this fragrance. So essentially, you wash yourself with this like very specific fluid.
They saw you coming to
Florida water or something, and it's like we kind of go up to this thing with this plastic bottle with this like yellow-looking liquid in.
Piss.
Then I'm looking, then I'm like, so I need this for the ceremony. He goes, oh, very important, essential. Then I'm like, all right, how much for this one? And he's like, 40 solid. And I'm like, and it's a decent amount. It's 10 quid, $15 odd. And so each of these are like, they're starting to add up, these things.
Yep.
And all right, we get into at this point. I basically make my excuse and say, my friends, I haven't got any more money. I've got to go to a cash machine, thinking that'll put them off. Oh no,
I have a cash machine.
They take me to the cash machine, the best in town. Basically, all the different machines. He goes, all cards work, all machines work. As he basically gets me to the door. At this point, I'm basically trying to think of an excuse to like basically, I wouldn't not even jib them off or leave. But at this point, basically, I'm just trying to be polite. So I don't want to be. I don't want to be an. Exactly, they do.
It's
I don't want to be an overt cock because you're only 1 week into the holiday, so you haven't really got your guard up. You're not really at the point where you just want time to go away.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're traveling. You become seasoned, and eventually you're like, go fuck yourself. Find someone. Exactly. Find another. It's not going to work.
Go fuck yourself. And it's like, all right, then get to a point where we're back in the tuk-tuk, and he's taking me back. Then he brings out these like amulet, like those necklaces, like, and some made out of the ayahuasca root or the it's like this. It was like a clover, and it's like it's kind of like got some lacquer on it, some various other things, and I'm like. And he goes, oh, my friend, you need for the ceremony. I'm like, so I need this for the ceremony. So he goes, oh, my friend, very important. And it's like, all right, then how much for this? And he goes, 150.
He's gone for the big one.
Oh, yeah. So I'm like, oh.
So you're looking at how much for that? 150? So that's what?
25, 22 quid or something. Substantial fucking little thing he's probably paid $1 for or something. Or less. Then I'm like, whoa, my friend, I can't do that. And then it's like what about 2? And he goes, I do your deal, like 200. Then it's like, I'm not buying 2. And in the end,
you don't want it. How about I sell you 2 of them?
In the end, I paid 100 for one. So basically, he was trying to force the 2. Then I was like, oh. And at this point, basically, we get to the place, and they're loving it. Basically, they're happy as fuck. They're really, really happy. And then we kind of leave on goodish terms because again, we don't want to be too much of a dick. But at this point, basically, I am a little bit pissed off with them. I don't really kind of engage or want to speak to them again after I come out. But
it's mad, isn't it, when you get fucked over like that, because they catch you in a vulnerable state, and they're used to just doing it day in, day out.
They did it to the same thing. The same guys did it to the same guy, another guy in our camp, but he went all in. So I actually got away with it compared to what he did. I mean,
so how much did you spend
I was kind of conscious of the fact that I really got fucked over, and it was pretty stupid.
How much did you spend?
Oh God, I mean, 253, getting on for 670 quid.
Yeah, okay.
All in.
A hell of a lot of money.
But it turns out the next day you did actually need the wellies, but you could get them for $10, or less than $10 to be honest. So they charged me double for the wellies over at the top. You didn't need the agua de water, they provided. You didn't need the mapachos, they already provided, which I really thought of. You're paying nearly $1,000 for a week camp.
You did need wellies.
All this would be included. I did need the wellies.
It is for ayahuasca camps now.
I didn't. Well, that was one of the cheaper ones as well. It was a full-on retreat, so you do the other medicines, the diet. The basically meetings with daily meetings with the shaman, and so it's more holistic things, but there's other things going on in the background.
I remember when I started looking at this is when Joe Rogan had Aubrey Marcus on years ago. It's like a decade ago now, and I contacted Aubrey, and then I contacted Maestro Chudamaya, which was the guy who he had, and it was like $200 or something.
A guy died in my camp about 3 years before, a New Zealander.
Fucking hell.
Basically, I looked it up. He died, I think. They'd given him some kind of tobacco brew to flush out his system, and I think it gave him some kind of heart attack. He was only a young lad, New Zealander. And the people in the camp basically shat themselves, left his body there, and it was up to all the guests in the camp to get in contact with the authorities to begin the repatriation of his body.
That's why you want to go.
So there's danger. There's a danger in it, dude.
Places with your friends.
And there's only 5-6 people going a week, so you start running through the numbers on that. All right, so just say they've had 5 a week every week of the year, and he goes, they haven't. I mean, they really haven't. And he goes, so it's like 50 times. So it's 250. Well, 250 people a year. So that's 750 in 3 years potentially. So 750 people before the guy died doing it. So that you can get an idea of the risk. So it's not less than 100, but it's basically it'll be in the thousands, I'm guessing. I know in that instance it's less than 1,000 to 1.
This is why I'd want to go with a friend to do it, because at least your friend.
I'll have
would be able to-
recommendations on it, and I probably wouldn't do the same thing I did. And it's a little bit too much for
Well,
me.
plus, at least then, the worst case scenario, your friend can tell your family what happened.
Yeah. Well, because I just told the story of like getting ripped off, it's not even that bad a story of getting ripped off. To be honest, I was aware of it. Then I reined it in.
So I'll tell you what. Let's talk about ripped off stories. Then we'll take a break. So I need to.
Yeah.
So your friend.
The next day, as I meet the group for the camp, so we come down at 7:30 a.m. for breakfast, and then you start seeing the other people for the camp, and I'm like, I'm just hoping for some groups of chicks or something, just some kind of eye candy. Then it's like,
for some
dude,
way to lift weights.
ready. It was dude.
Yeah.
And it was just all dudes, pretty much. But I start chatting to them, and it's mostly Yanks. In fact, it was all Yanks. Yeah, all American. One was living in Japan, but it was the guy who's living in Japan got properly ripped off. So it looks like they did exactly the same thing for him. But he bought the fragrance, the fragrance, the mapachos, the statue, the necklace, the pants, the ceremonial shirt. And he goes, this guy starts describing this shirt and goes, oh, I got this ceremonial shirt yesterday in the market. These guys helped me. And he goes, I'm so happy with it. And he goes, it looks so good. And I'm looking and it's like, how much did you pay for this shirt? And he goes, oh, I don't want to say it was a lot. Then I'm like, but this guy's like beaming. And he was loving it. He was blissful in his like, but the ignorance of like being ripped off. And I'm like, I'm guessing he paid about $100 for this shirt.
What did the shirt look like?
It was a shirt with these like it's kind of a motif. It was almost like a borderline. It was like straight lines, like coming in like at 90-degree angles.
So when you say shirt, you mean a button shirt?
It was a white shirt with a line pattern on it, and the line pattern was synonymous with the basically shaman. So it is actually in their culture, basically a pattern used in, but it was just clearly a touristy shirt. But the one he got was a specially made shaman shirt, better quality, superior printing. Absolutely not in the same factory as that of the junk the normal people buy.
Most importantly,
which we saw.
Necessary for the ritual.
The same guy bought a ayahuasca pipe for about $70 on the day we left. And another one of the Americans I spoke to bought a painting. And bearing in mind, everybody in South America hassles you to try and sell you a little piece of artwork. He bought one for $200.
Holy shit.
$200. I mean, I can't fathom it. And again, this guy was happy the next day. He goes, dude, I bought this painting yesterday. And it was absolutely dope. And like another American goes, man, I saw that painting. I was going to buy that cape. So two of the guys in my camp were basically biding with each other to get this $200 thing. The sweatshops making this thing, I saw some of them. They're not sweatshops, but they're basically being produced on an industrial scale. Like every guy's got 20 of them. And again, so when we get ripped off in these places like Cusco and like they ask you 100 solely for this now, it's because of these Yank dudes are like, hot diggity dog, that looks amazing. And it's like, but they were so happy. He was happy with his shirt, ceremonial shirt and pants, and the other guy with his painting, which fair enough if they're happy for it, but it makes the rest of our lives different as a tourist a bit more difficult because they all think we're going to open the wallet in the same way, which we're not. But
it's interesting that, isn't it, about getting scammed? Because I remember the worst.
He was so happy. He was like, dude, it looks so good. I can't wait for the ceremony.
The most embarrassed I ever am about getting scammed is when we went to San Fran. Remember, we went to San Fran in 2010, which is what got me into the like, right, I want to travel. But it was a day when I was on the bus with Chris. I think we were meeting. It was when we came to meet you on Hippie Hill that day, and you were with Jake.
Oh wow, yeah, that was already an epic
there.
day. That man,
you were already there, high, watching the girl with the hula hoop.
That was the end of the world day.
End of the world.
So that was
day.
May 2012 or something. So that's when
it was 2011.
Oh, that was it. So that's
2010.
That's when it was May, wasn't it? So it was when the scorpions were supposed to be coming down from the sky. And so we went down. I think it was me, an Italian, a Belgian, and Jake, wasn't it? We pre-made about 4 joints. It was really strong.
Was it DJ there?
No. Oh, yes. The Italian. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a good guy. We pre-made some really strong.
Did I show you the video? Because we went.
We opened it up and then we're just all unconscious for about an hour. But that whole day was epic, man. There was like all the hippies come down with their drums for the end of the world.
He remembers you at DJ when we went back. Because I met up with Chris there a few years back and he remembered. He was like, "I don't. He talks so much."
Dude, my voice. Those few days absolutely destroyed me. But that was an epic day.
I remember. Yeah, you were fucked. And then we went to Vegas afterwards and we were like, "Why are we here? We should have stayed in San Fran. It was so much better." Yeah. So anyway, we're on our way to meet you. We're on the bus, and some guys get on. Older black guy gets on, and he starts doing that 3-card Monty or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
With people, and he's got like a upturned cardboard box that he's doing it on. And we just looking to see
Who
what
wants
he's
to make
doing.
some money? Who's got some money?
Yeah, fuck the queen, where's the queen, all that kind of stuff. And then this like fat younger black guy is like, yeah, I want to make some money here, and he's obviously the plant who's with this guy, and we're just looking, and I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I remember he's trying to get me involved, and he kept saying stuff like, he's like, which card do you think it is? And I was like, I'm not playing. And he goes, yeah, but you already won. He kept saying like, you've already won. I'm like, I haven't, because I'm not playing. And he goes, well, which card? And I'm like, and somehow he got me to pick a card when I hadn't put any money down, right? So I was like, that card there. And he turned up, and it was the queen, and he gave me $5. And I remember that being the thing which threw me, because all of a sudden I had money, right? And I hadn't... Before you know it, I'm handing $40 over to him, right? It was insane. And then he gets off the thing before I know what's happened. And then the next thing, the black guy's like, hey, I want my money back, gets off. Obviously, they're working together.
Yeah,
and that means me, I'm just there with Chris. Like, I don't know what just happened. But I know I just got bummed in front of everyone on the bus. And then I came to meet you, and just the opposite experience. I met with you guys. I don't even want to talk about it because I'm that embarrassed. And you guys are like, oh, look at it. We've been here getting high. Look at that girl with her hula hoop over there. Like, we've had just such different days.
Because we'd had a really heavy night the night before, and you and Chris, I think, stayed in bed or something, and I really punished myself to get up. That's one of the reasons I was so worn down by the end. But we got up and got out relatively early in the day, and oh yeah, it was a good day, that, man.
All right, let's break. All right, okay, so where were we? So you've been scammed, you're about to do the ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah, oh god, so it's leading up. But yeah, in essence, I realised as soon as I got back, I realised as it was happening, but at that point, I'd kind of promised myself that was the last time I was going to get ripped off, and it pretty much was on the trip. Oh god, what was it? The next day when I saw the guy, initially he was trying to keep it going because he thought I was complete fool. Then straight away,
the guy who scammed you.
I acknowledged on the first day, so I played pretend up until the end, but as soon as I saw him on the first day, and I just walked up to him, and he goes, I wasn't smiling. I was like, dude, I know you fucked me over yesterday.
You said that?
Yeah. And he's like, you got me, man. It was almost like the dude from but he's like the dude from the taxi driver from Total Recall. You got me, man.
I got 5 kids to... I have 4 kids to feed. What happened to number 5?
That was just kind of dynamic. So it was like a little smile. And he goes, well, and he goes, for them, it's a big score. But it's only as you're there for over the weeks go by and the months go by and you realise how much money that is for them. And he goes, so there's other people out there working, trying to sell boxer matches for a few cents. And this guy's just taken $50, $60, $70 from one whap. So he's got almost like a month's worth of money in one hit.
Sounds like a smarter guy.
Pretty much. And he goes, so I acknowledged it. I basically, there's no point asking for anything back or anything. So it's like, it was just one of them. All right, I acknowledge you got me.
Give me that t-shirt. Give me that farting t-shirt now.
But there was one, like that, because I'd basically been identified as somebody who's receptive. There's a few, basically, little bars and cafes where some of the Westerners hang out. So Karma Cafe is a very popular one. And they hang around in groups outside. And he goes, I got hassled quite a bit when I went out for a smoke. And he goes, oh, do you want to come to my shop, buy some stuff? And he goes, I don't need anything like that. I need some earbuds. He goes, I've got earbuds in my shop. And he hadn't. And then in some cases, that was it. The guy just wanted me to give him money. And he was like, oh, can't you just give me some money for my energy I've given you? That was it.
My energy.
No.
Just give me some money, man.
For my energy. So the energy I'm putting in trying to rip you off has got to be worth something.
I heard those guys got 20 quid. Give me 20 quid, dickhead. Fucking hell, just scallies of the Amazon, essentially.
Then I basically gave I wouldn't say quite a bit to homeless people, but your heartstrings are pulled when you just see somebody who's like old, disabled, especially the older. There's no social security. They're literally, they have nothing.
Yeah. Same in India.
But I gave one, it was quite a big coin. It might have been like a 10 solé coin or 5. It was a reasonable amount, kind of a few quid. And then one saw me, then I got the purest, just homeless puppy dog eyes just looking at me. I'm like, all right, I've got to give you the same value then. And anyone else looking, then I'm like, all right, run away.
Fuck.
But I gave a little bit away. But again, later on in the trip, you realise there's just real poverty there, man.
Yeah, it's real poverty.
Selling, I mean, literally, they must have found something and they'll be trying to sell just like a little plastic toy or something, and they're just sitting on the street looking at you. And that's just across a lot of the places I went to, man. It's really, really extreme. It makes me annoyed with some of those kind of scammers kind of thing. Right?
You say that, but man, fucking hell. I mean, Liverpool and Birkenhead now, the homeless problem here is insane. I went past the guy the other night and I actually wanted to give him some money. I was like, okay, He was like, do you want to buy an ashtray, mate? He basically got a load of beer cans. This is in Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
European capital of culture, right?
2008 or whatever it was.
Whatever, it still was. Now, 10 years later, you've got a guy and he's cutting up Heineken cans and folding them into quite well-designed little ashtrays, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's a guy repurposing garbage to sell on the street in Liverpool.
Yeah, there was a documentary, a World in Action documentary from the 1980s in Birkenhead showing the same thing. So it's a guy going out onto the tip to try and get a bit of scrap or whatever it is to try and make up his doll kind of thing.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Come full circle.
Yeah.
Want to go to the Amazon, mate? All right, so you've been scammed. Let's leave scamming in the past.
Yeah, that was just relatively minor. But basically, I promised myself it wasn't going to happen again, so I was definitely smarter after that point. So basically, we're leaving in the morning. Another couple of the American lads didn't have wellies. So basically, I bought my wellies, paid over the odds, but so they went and bought some. We get into it was a bus. We drive. Come to a water's edge, get in a boat, and then we start off. And here's the place, the Iquitos itself, the water body outside is basically man-made. So it's not the Amazon proper. You got to ride out about a mile and a half.
Man-made?
Yeah, well, I think it's...
Like a canal?
You could have... In the dry season, you can basically dig it out quite easily. Basically, the water recedes massively, so you've got access to it. So it's not like you're dredging in water. So dry season... recedes, you can maybe dig it out, and then when the rain comes, you've got a deep pool which is more navigable. But it's still very shallow draft. All the boats there are like 3-4 feet, like these like flat barge type things. So there's like quite a few shipyards you see them being built because you can't ship them in from anywhere else, so it all has to be built there and then.
Whoa.
So boat, and it wasn't that far. So it's like a little community away from just across the northwest from Iquitos. Boat, then we basically walk a bit, come to some hut, then we've got to meet the village, the tribe we're staying with. Basically, the senior guy wants us to milk us for some money. So basically, we had to go into the room, then the locals come out and like they do the dance, which probably wasn't even one of the local dances, but it is like one of the dances.
Saw it on YouTube.
Then we've got the little trinkets, and we've got to get up and dance with them. Then we're basically just celebrating together, etc., etc. I'm sure some of the liberals would absolutely wank off it, but I was just very hot and just dripping with sweat from the whole experience. Even just walking in those environments, I just start dripping. And so we give it, and then it comes to give the contributions, and then all the guys in our group have got tight pockets, so I end up, all right, 50 solid note donation for you. And it's like, all right, can I have that necklace? All right, here's 50 soles for you. Then it's like, I was dishing it out because for me, I'd rather give it to actual local people, even though it's still set up.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'd rather give it to them.
You've just been grifted for wellies.
Exactly.
Why
I'd rather
not
give it to them than like somebody
yeah.
else. And he goes, there was 50 solid note. That's quite a lot. You don't. It's a decent amount. It's one of the pretty much the biggest note you can get. So it's like me just giving a £50 note to somebody. But in an hour's walk, just dripping with sweat. Then the road itself was just mud, and then you're just really thankful for the wellies. You probably needed waders, to be honest.
How deep were you getting?
Oh God, it's your knee. It went above my welly. One of my wellies was full with mud.
Holy shit.
And then people were getting physically stuck, so you had to stay in groups and but you're pulling each other out. But they'd had quite a lot of rain there.
So you had your packs on at this point?
No, conditions are such that they had porters meeting us out the boat to carry our packs. Because initially I was like, I'll carry my own. But later on, and basically just local dudes who are used to the environment just beasting it through and putting basically the Westerners to shame. So we're all picking our way, slopping through the mud, but they do it all day, every day.
Yeah.
So for them, we're going slowly. It turns into more than an hour. For them, they just want to get there in 40 minutes.
Yeah, and I'd imagine your legs are fucked after that because you're just not used to putting that much effort in.
An hour's not too bad. If you're doing it all day, yeah, it'd be an issue. But for a couple of hours,
my mate goes out and he's out for hours of a day.
It was the sweating and dehydration, which was the worst.
Right.
For me.
He goes out with his metal detector digging, on digs. So he's out like 12 hours, and like the next day he's just fucked. He's just going through mud the whole time.
Yeah.
Just on your feet for that long. Cool. All right. Yeah. And you see, it was the same thing in Chiang Mai. I went up and did that trek, and there was a guy just carrying loads of gear, and he was just so much faster than us up these hills, and we're all like dying, mostly because of out of shape and not used to the heat, but he just lives there and he's just built just from
conditioning.
Stuff.
I noticed that with more when you go south, the conditioning of the people just for that environment is phenomenal. So basically walk, get into the camp itself, Kapitari, so Kapiti.
And you're in deep jungle now, right?
It's not ultra deep. You're still 10 miles from Iquitos, really. So you've got this city in the middle of nowhere. So the closer you are to the city, the more it's affected by the city, so you're going to have less animals and stuff. So the place we were going wasn't virgin rainforest or anything. That was further out. It was an old terrapin farm, like a turtle farm. So I think, obviously, like last century, basically they had a series of ponds where they were just like growing these animals to farm for meat. And then the guy who
for meat,
the guy who the shaman himself, like Wagner, not Wagner, that was his son. He'd bought the site in 1980, and for the previous 38 or 39 years, he'd been developing it into an ayahuasca reserve. So it wasn't native, but so at this point he's planted all round with trees. He's planted ayahuasca, and there's virtually all the other useful medicinal type library things which are useful. He's planted in and around this area.
Yeah.
So you've got something in nature. You'd have to trek lots of way this way to find them because they'll be in separate different soils and stuff. So in fact, he's basically built his own reserve where he's got all the resources he needs. He doesn't need to track. He doesn't need to go find vines anywhere. Natural fertilizer. All the chickens, like a lot of the food on the camp itself is like it's kind of grown there, which is pretty cool. And so it looks really picturesque. We turn up, there's a massive lake, and we're told first thing is you can swim in that. I'm like,
holy
what?
shit!
And so you got massive like freshwater lake in the Amazon. So that's one of the benefits of these like series of pools. They had one which is for fish, one below it which is for washing.
Nice.
So the last day they gave us an option. Well, first of all right, we'll run through what happened on it. So leading up to it, I didn't realize you've got to go on a fast.
So this is before you
So
do
you're
the
supposed to
ayahuasca,
cleanse your body for a month before you do it. If
Before
you're
we
doing
talk about it,
seriously.
explain to people listening what ayahuasca is.
Oh God, it's a natural root in the Amazon, which is a strong hallucinogenic, which is oh God, what was the active ingredient on it?
DMT.
DMT was it. So effectively, on its own, human ingests it. It doesn't do anything because we've got an enzyme which inhibits it. But if you mix it with another plant, it's an enzyme inhibitor, which means your stomach won't. No, it can basically ingest it. So it's a means of ingesting DMT through your bloodstream long term, as opposed to the short term
Smoking it.
Yeah. So it's mixing the two different plants together. It's got basically a strong hallucinogenic effect, which lasts 4, 5, 6 hours.
Oh, is that it? I thought it was longer than that.
Slightly longer. No, it wasn't that much. You need to kind of top it up depending on what happens. But it's for them. It's part of their culture. It's not illegal in Peru. It's historical. Not in all of Peru. So it's in the Amazonian region. It's a strong, kind of part of the culture. It's the way the shaman, they connect to nature, and as they connect to the past. But like I said, it's not. I think there's so many people there who are basically abusing it. Apparently, I've heard people in California getting it and sending powder. You can basically condense the powder and send it out. An Aussie guy, basically we're friends with, he did it. He sent 1 kilo or 5 kilos of powder back to Australia.
That's not getting through the fucking...
Because he just wanted to keep some for him and his close people.
5 kilos?
It was several kilos, yeah.
Fucking hell.
But you don't do it direct. You different name on it, whatever it be. And then it's like, do you know what that powder is? Although, from South America...
There's 5 kilos of some powder coming from South America. Yeah, I'd be checking every single package. All right, so you didn't know that you had to, in preparation for the...
So fast. So it was only a few days before. Basically, they said, all right, you're not really supposed to eat meat. You don't drink beer. You don't do drugs. You don't smoke cigarettes. Or not artificial cigarettes, that is. Basically, mapachos are different. But effectively, I was like, oh, God. But because I'd only decided to go to ketos a few days before, I obviously hadn't done it. So I did a crash course where basically I just didn't eat for like a day and a half before I went. I think I had some kind of hummus type meal and a salad the day before. So no alcohol. I was basically tempted the night before. First day we arrive, there's no kind of ayahuasca. It's just an introduction. So you're kind of settling into your accommodation, and they're going to start to bring your diet down even more in a controlled way for a couple of days before you do any kind of ceremony. So you're not doing the ceremony every night. So first day, basically food, simple rice, some vegetables, and a tiny amount of chicken. But there's lots of fruit and various other things. And very relatively basic. And basically have an introduction with the shaman. We walk around the camp. We're looking at the different plants. He's showing us the different plants, what the effects are, what the benefits are.
So this is in a different place to the place you
just
showed?
This is all like, there's like a super number of huts. Basically, we do all this shit here. There's a big communal hut, which is like the spiritual dojo. There's a proper term for it, but that's the place you do all the ceremony together. But we'd also have meetings there every morning. So beforehand, essentially you have interview with the shaman, or the principal shaman. He's just saying, what issues have you got personally? So psychological, physical, back in the West. So have you got any physical ailments, a bad back, a bad knee, Is there any kind of psychological kind of reason you're here?
So you were
So-
like, my shoulder's back.
yeah. So, points to his shoulder. So, from that, you list through what problems you have, and he prescribes basically some plants, because there's going to be a separate course of medicine to the ayahuasca. So, on that one, it was my shoulder, and it was the one that was regarding sleep. So he's analysing it, and he goes, all right, this one. And he goes, so they give you a checklist of basically these like wonder plants you're supposed to be drinking as well. Also in conjunction with the ayahuasca. So I get mine. I've got double doses for various ones, but I don't think much of it at this point. Like I said, a meeting with the shaman, chatting about why we're here, basically not to have like preconceptions. That night, not much happens. The next day, they ramp our diet down again. So now we just boiled rice and fruit. So no salt, no sugar, no coffee, no tea. Just nothing, just plain rice and like a little bit of vegetables. And at this point, I think one of the guys, we were with an American guy, he was like a tall guy, O'Brien. He's like 6'5", young guy. He probably needs 5,000 calories a day. Because they're really active. His mate was like ex-Marine type, and they're doing backflips and front flips and all this kind of stuff. But he's going down to like a few hundred calories a day. So even after a couple of days, everyone's like kind of feeling it a bit, where you're basically doing this extreme crash course diet.
It's crazy. I can't believe they don't make you just completely fast, because if you have caloric restriction, then your body craves food, whereas if you just completely fast with just water, you're fine.
I think they just want to cut the sugar and shit out.
I would have just fasted,
so they're not against
100%.
food altogether. Anyways, but when during the ceremonies itself, you're only really supposed to eat basically a little bit of fruit. It was unlimited fruit, but like I said, it was just boiled rice. And so second day, they toned that down. And then the day of the ceremony itself, like I said, it's just absolute bare bones, a few hundred calories maybe. So we have a practice session the morning before, which is a communal sick session. So we need to practice being sick communally. Because they often have girls, they're very conscious of puking up together. So they get everyone around in the morning. You get 4 or 5 litres of warm water. And basically, you get your sick bucket, your mat, so everything in preparation for the ceremony the night before.
Holy shit.
So you get your practice, your bucket, you got all your tissue next to you, then you start drinking the warm water. Then one person pukes it, then we all start puking. This is like 9 in the morning. It's fine. Basically, I neck all the water, then I puke it all up. And it's just getting people used to vomiting around each other, because it happens a lot during the ceremony itself. And you don't want somebody being conscious of or freaking out that somebody else is puking up next to him.
Yeah.
So it's basically a practice session.
Or puking up in general, let alone in front of other people. It's probably a good idea to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because off in your own head when you're on hallucinogens. You're like, fuck, people are looking at me.
Yeah. So practice 6 session. We're chatting about the ceremony, which is going to occur that night. So the cleansing, being clean. Like I said, no artificial tobacco allowed in the main hut. So only the mapachos. And essentially the tobacco, it's supposed to, it's protected. The shaman itself blows on it. He's like, as he comes around the ceremony, and it's basically to protect and wash away the fucking evil spirits or fucking bad things around you. So, oh god, I might as well go to the ceremony. So, what are the things?
So that was the first night. So they've done the cleanse. They've done the
practice 6 session. Pretty quiet the rest of the day. We're just chilling out on the lake and relaxing, not doing much. And then the ceremony itself started. We were doing it was at 6 p.m. 7 p.m, but it's already dark at that point completely. So we all approach the hut themselves. Everything's quiet. Basically, you've got the shaman in the end sitting elevated. There's only a single candle in the room. Everybody's separated around, so you've got your own space in the hut, so you can puke and you can do. You're not going to get on top of anybody, but it's a very solitary experience. It's like you're on your own mat, in your own little spot, and you don't engage with other people. You're not chatting to them. You're not doing anything else. You're on your little spot and you stay there pretty much. So they come in. The shaman comes in with the ayahuasca brew, which is it's like a black, dark, quite a thick thing, and like a large jug. Then he's got this oversized shot glass.
Having flashbacks,
dude. Oh my god.
What was it like? Like a soup? It wasn't gooey, was it?
Dude, my body after a few days, but so they kind of come out basically, all right, who's going to be like first?
What was the consistency of this stuff?
Not super thick. It was a little bit bitty, black. Tasted like medicine. Tasted not acidy, but chemically. Didn't taste natural. It tasted artificial. Or it was like a chemical, like GHB or something. But you had it first. In effect, it's quite fast acting. So the idea is,
especially when you've fasted.
Yeah. So before you actually do anything, essentially the shaman blesses everybody. So he individually comes down to everybody individually. He'll say a prayer or a chant above you. He'll ceremonially blow mapacho smoke over you to wash away the sins. He'll basically wash himself with the agua, the Florida, the water. Then he'll basically get you to cleanse your face with it, and it's just like some alcohol, basically perfume type thing. Then eventually, once he's gone around and everyone's like kind of prepared, and he goes, they're very conscious of bringing negative energy or like evil spirits in, hence like cleansing and like nothing artificial from the outside. Then individually, you are basically pointed to and asked to go up to the shaman. So you walk up. In my case, I just like kind of kneeled in front of him. It was almost like you taking like the bread in church kind of thing. And it was almost like that like religious kind of experience. So you're kind of sitting down, basically in front, and it's like, all right, 1 cup. You ask how much you want, but I decided to do 1 cup on my first session. So it's all right, 1. So he picks it up and he just starts filling the shot glass. Well, that's it. He blows smoke into the glass and starts filling it, and it is pretty thick actually. Consistency of like thick coughing medicine from when you were a kid, but there's bits and other stuff in it. It's like inconsistencies. Kind of pours it out, and basically the smoke swirling up as the ayahuasca displaces the thing. And you look at it, and I'm trying not to smell it. I'm told not to smell it, but it doesn't smell fucking good. Neck it, and it tastes like I said, it's chemically. It wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't overtly enough to make me sick at that point. I can definitely feel it's not tasting good, but I'm keeping it down, so it's kind of stand up, kind of acknowledge the shaman, stand up, go back to my seat, and then lie down. At this point, you're told, like, you're not really sitting up doing anything. It's just close your eyes, lie down, and try and empty your mind. And he goes, you actually need to concentrate on it, which was my mistake in the second night. And he goes, so it's not like it's whoosh, like just steamrolling you. You basically got to work at it a bit, where you've got to put yourself in a spot where you're relaxing. You're not really thinking about anything. And you're closing your eyes subtly. Then I'm kind of doing these things, not really thinking of much. I'm not really feeling so much of an effect. And then maybe after about 40 minutes, I start seeing kind of Tron colours a little bit, which reminds me a lot like when I was a child. So I always describe it like when you used to tighten your eyes really tight and you used to get those like different like kind of spectrums of colour.
Yeah.
Similar to that started happening. Then I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. And I'm seeing lines, not dissimilar to that. Several of them like kind of packed, different colours, but it was almost like Tron racing, where you'd see all the bikes racing and they leave a line. And it's just several of those, but there was like from blue to pink. And they were pulsating as if it was a jellyfish. So a jellyfish can kind of like pulsate and change its colour depending on how it's going. So you've got these lines, and like, but they've got pulsating, fucking beautiful colours. At this point, I'm like, over the next like half hour, 40 minutes, and like, that gets deeper, but not that much deeper. And at that point, my brain just got supercharged. I was kind of sitting up. I was kind of swaying a hell of a lot, and I naturally wanted to sit up, so I was like sitting up. Then I started doing stroking my legs thing, because like my body became really fucking sensitive, a bit like on mushrooms, to be honest.
I was going to say it sounds like mushrooms.
Yeah. So I'm stroking my knees, my basically arms, and it's like it literally just quivers like mini. The way I described it the day after, it was like a mini orgasm, pretty much, and it's just like. Literally, it was just like I realised I kind of how unused to being touched I was, but also how sensitive and spiritual I was as well. In a sense, I block all this out on a day-to-day thing, 365. But when I'm actually there and doing it, I was really fucking
feel connected again with your body. Like
I don't know, just like kind of swaying in the fucking wind. But during the whole process, it was the chanting. So the shaman is basically singing the whole ceremony, and that's what set it off initially. Wasn't feeling anything, and I'm closing my eyes, and then through the chanting, and the chanting definitely helped. So if you're in a point where you're not really kind of over the edge of like kind of like concentration, or you're not really with it, but for me, it's after his chanting, that's when I started seeing the fucking colours. And so for me, it didn't go full on like kind of psychedelic beyond that point. So there was
sounds like you had a low dose.
It was. They give you an option of a larger amount. Basically, you can come back after 2 hours and would you like some more? And I opted for 1 more cup. And over the course of, it was only about 4 or 5 hours. It's basically I swayed, and it was up top 5 nights. One of the best nights of my life. On the basis of like, really deep self-reflection. I mean, just really supercharged my brain. I could feel like a drug effect on my body. But then I lost concentration. Then I'm kind of opening my eyes at this point, and I'm just trying to interact with the room, and I can feel like I'm definitely fucked. And I'm looking around, trying to like really make anything out. Then I wanted to look at the sky, and I remember looking at the sky, and it looked like a net, like a cell net, as if they were like the hexagonal or octagonal like the grids all across the sky. That was like distinctive. I just remember looking at it because I wanted to see the sky with my eyes, and the same eyes a human saw thousands of years ago.
You were in a hut at this point.
No, we're in a hut, but you can the edges of the hut are open, so you can kind of at the angle I was at, I could still look up, the idea of looking at the sky with the same eyes and the same brain a human would have had 10,000 years ago and exactly the same jokes they did, that just kind of appealed to me. That was
especially with when you can actually see the sky.
So what the Egyptians saw, and as well, any human saw when they're in a kind of hallucination kind of. It absolutely brings us together with that across all time and space, and that was like kind of really fucking cool thing for me. But I was thinking of my grandmother's. And there's one who I'd never seen before, my dad's mother. And that was more of a recurring theme. So basically, my mum's mum. And there's a reverence and respect for what they did and where they're from. I kind of sensed it with my mum's mum that she was pretty badass. There was something about her. She had definitely a glint in her eye. But from what I was told, basically, my dad's mum was very much like that. Mrs. Doyle was very well known in Birkenhead. She basically... quite a few babies were delivered by her. So this is like 1930s, 1940s, very poor. But she was like a strong woman, like an alpha type woman in the community. So thought and reflections on them, love and respect for them, which is a big one. And that was more for like family as well, which is kind of, I would say. But again, it wasn't overtly, I'm kind of tripping or saying something. It was some of that at the beginning, and like the visuals were subtle but amazing and beautiful. And after that, it was a point of my body being, I was like swaying. I felt like I was connected to something else, but also being conscious. Really, I'm kind of conscious and thinking and allowing to follow like the thoughts, which I just wouldn't normally think about. I don't think about my ancestors on a normal day. Why would you do that? But for some reason, that's all I was thinking about. But yeah, and then coming down to maybe 4 or 5 and gets to midnight, and then it starts like kind of winding down. So there is. So
just before we move on,
I puked up as well after about. You're supposed to puke up, and I'm doing this slightly disjointedly. So you're supposed to puke up. So I kept mine down for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then I already heard other people puking in the background, and came on pretty suddenly. Couldn't feel it. Then I felt it, book it, blew it out. Felt sickly when I was puking up, but felt really good as soon as it finished. So it was almost instant relief as soon as the sick had come out, because you're not supposed to keep it in. It's just a matter of how long it takes you to puke it up. And again, but once I puked up, basically there was a massive injection of colour as I was being sick, and this happened on one of the other ceremonies. In fact, so it was like it's like you electrocute all these like different, like really bright light. And again, that sick was like it's almost like you're looking at lightning or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
You said that it top 5 nights of your life, which for someone who's never done hallucinogens, they can't imagine. But I went away with my mate Rich, and we did the strongest mushrooms you could do in Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. This is when you could do fresh shrooms, which are the best. And we had I said it's the best night of my life, and from that perspective, it really was. Some kind of transcendental, introspective, glorious, being connected with your body, the
supercharged.
The stuff the hippies talk about. It's you get it, and you're like, fuck, this is all that matters.
Yeah.
And people are all that matter as well. That's where you think a lot about your family, and then you come back and you're a changed person. You really are.
So basically adding, so I puked up. Very pleasant experience after that point. Didn't feel any sickness or nausea. The second cup, not too. But did I have a second cup on the first? I might just had one cup on the first night. To be honest, I don't think I went back for seconds. Maybe I had one. But so you can kind of hear how the people in the room are getting on, and basically one of the lads had gone into a really dark place where basically he freaked out. It was the first ceremony as well, so it was the guy maybe you might hear this, might not, but the guy who bought the ceremonial shirt,
Yeah.
the ceremonial pants, he had ceremonial, all these like trinkets from like the Indian, this one, and he was talking about most of it. It's like, this is going to be amazing. I can't wait for tonight. He ended up in a dark place. He was crying.
Was he wearing the stuff?
He's like, help me! I need to get help me! And like, there's a safety thing. So there's a facilitator there. So it's not like you're just thrown in with like the local like shaman. So there's a German and an American girl. So they're separate on the edge. So they're in the hut, but like they're clean. They're not on anything. And if anybody's in distress or it hits the shit, they're there to help them. And they've got some like lemon juice and some fruit to bring you round. It takes like half an hour, but you can. And
it's also to give you something else to concentrate
on. The signal for it was
a
double tap, knock on the floor. And so the first one, it was just dish, dish, dish. And basically, it was one of the American, well, they're all American guys, but it was one of the guys, and he sounded like he was in a bad spot. I need to get out of it. And it's like he was in a bad spot. But it was the second guy later on. He was just moaning and whining like he was in fucking hell or something. He was like, oh my God. I want to go. I don't want to be. And it's like, he was in a fucking dark place. Then the fucking facilitator guy comes up, starts like holding him. Then like the shaman comes out. Then it's like shamans fucking hold him. And there's just collective like thing, and just like trying to like hold and like reassure. And it is, but he got the lemon juice. He was in a bad way, and I don't think he did the ceremony again after that. And so one of the guys who was most looking forward to it basically just got absolutely KO'd. But he did say he had quite a significant experience.
Yeah, those are good experiences.
I think two bottled out on the first night. But my mate Alex, I saw him have like 10 cups.
So hang on, he was there with you the first night?
Yeah, so he was part of the ceremony as well. So he was living in the camp when we turned up. He'd been there for, I don't know, a couple of months, I think.
That's the guy you're talking about earlier. He's coming on the podcast in a few weeks.
Yeah, he didn't have his breakthrough. And so normally you just have increase the dosage until eventually you'll have a breakthrough, and it's just a matter of time. And he'd been there for months, and he had never had it, but he had about 10 or 11 cups that night. And he's like, boosh, boosh, boosh. And it's just... But he used the shot glass to fill an even bigger cup for him, and it was like this half pinty deck. So I was like, oh my God. But he didn't have a breakthrough because it's mental baggage. He was in a bad spot, man. And he's like, even so, he's like, yeah, he didn't have it. But the next day, basically, when we had the meeting, basically, we had the post reflections on it, and a couple of the other guys had some significant experience, significant hallucinogenic experience in a sense. One was in space. One basically was in front of basically a god. And he got given any wish he desired, and he wanted to go back to ancient Egypt. And he went back to ancient Egypt, and there was a party, and there was beer, and there was merriment. And it's like they can go around, and there's other ones linking into a hand. Oh, that was it. Some of the animal shapes I saw. Personally, I saw the spider. I definitely saw a spider.
When you say you saw a spider, what do you mean?
Basically, when I was seeing the eyes closed, concentrating, just seeing the colours and the lines, I saw a spider.
So it looked like a loop, like...
It looked like the spider from the Nazca lines, and that was the other revelation I had from the next day.
Nazca lines,
it looked similar to the Nazca lines to the extent that I asked the shaman the next day, and he goes, do you think that the people who drew the Nazca lines were on ayahuasca? Because some of the things I saw last night look very like
Have you seen them yet?
Nazca lines. Yeah. Well, I didn't do the plane thing, but I drove by them. I didn't do the tower.
I'm up for doing that.
I didn't have any money left at the end. It's like $100 to get a plane, some crappy one. But they're not far from Lima, actually. But I drove through that whole area, man.
I wonder if they'd let you control the plane when you're up there a little bit as well.
It's only a little Cessna joggy one.
It's great, though. They're the planes. I've flown one of them.
Maybe a good one. I was I did the... oh, God, that might be the other one. But that was on the way back. I just ran out of cash, unfortunately. I lost my debit card, didn't I? So I had to find out amount of money. So, oh, God.
Your singular debit card. So cool. All right, so were the rest of the nights like that then? Similar kind of experience?
No, well, so for me, my first night, fucking epic. Loved it. Just relaxed the next day, felt great, and I thought, right, I'm going to up the dose the next day. I think one of the first guy to tap out, he had a bad one. He goes, he didn't want to do it after that, so he was done. So there's about 4 or 5 of us left of that one. So second night, start on it, he goes, yeah, I'm going to up the dosage tonight. So I'm like, if last night for me was so epic, and he goes, I only had 1 cup or 2 cups, whatever it was, and he goes, brilliant night, and he goes, so if I do 4 or 5 tonight, times 4 or 5, and he goes, I'm not even going to have to concentrate on it. And I think that was my fault. I did 2 initially, and then 3 later on when they gave me the option of the comeback. And bearing in mind, I have been told that this isn't the strongest ayahuasca brew compared to some of the other camps. I mean, Alex acknowledged he's been to other camps where it's like stronger. That's why when I start saying multiple cups, it's not the same as some of the other ones. I'm sure there's other camps where 1 or 2 cups will fucking blow your nuts off completely. So I'm not sure like how concentrated it was. But I had 2, and then maybe 3 hours later I had 3 more cups. So I think I had 5 or maybe 4, And by the end, at this point, my body has started to already reject it completely. So the smell. So the first night, I kept it down for like half an hour, 40 minutes. Second night, it was like 4 or 5 minutes in the first one. The second time I came up to him,
Shit, so
the
that's
smell was starting to make me turn to the point where they're just like, "Are you sure you want another one?" I'm like, yeah, well, I want the effects of another one, but my body's starting to reject it. Where like, all right, Shaman sits down, he starts pouring it, and just the smell from a meter away, I booked to the point that he thought I was going to puke up on him on his nice like ceremonial robe. So he kind of pulls the jug away and kind of leans back a bit, thinking I'm going to fucking barf on them. And I'm like, all right, no, neck it. I stand up, nearly puke as I stand up, walk back to my seat. And at this point, I'm really trying to keep it down for as long as I can. And I don't, and maybe 3, 4, 5 seconds after I get back to my mat, I just puke up. But I get that instant fucking flash of light, like, but as I'm puking up, and it's like light, yellow to white to like I wouldn't say red, but it was almost mirroring my sick. So my sick was flowing out, and like some kind of light or energy was flowing out here.
How clearly?
Very quickly, fasting.
When you think back to the visuals, how clear are they in your mind?
I suppose it's been like several months now. I think the lines, so the lines, the Nazca lines one was pretty significant. The spider, and there's another animal, so a wolf.
Can you see it when you think of it, or is it?
I can see the spider. I can't see the other animal. Oh, what's the other spider? But the shaman, in essence, whatever you saw the night before, we'd had the conversation the next day where the shaman gave you analysis of what it was you were seeing. And in some cases, it's quite interesting. So, in one case, one of the guys in the experience said he saw something above the guy who had the really basically he was crying for his mummy, and he saw something. And the next day, in the analysis the shaman gave him, is that was an escape of something bad within that guy. That's the guy's into. Well, I won't say what he's into in case he listens. But I have respect for him. But he's pretty quirky, interesting guy. So he's definitely probably got some issues. And in effect, he analysis as that was a release of that whatever was negative within him. And like the other guy, and the guy said, "Well, yeah, I do feel different." But another guy said, "I saw something come out of you last night." And it corroborated what the shaman had said.
What did they say?
Something, some kind of essence or something like Buddy leaving.
That's fucking weird.
Some the other guys, there was at least 2 of them who had far more fucking nuts, fucking where they're literally going places and fucking they're in space. The other one where they're dropping and they stop just before they hit the ground.
Whoa.
And then it's like zero gravity type scenarios. But I didn't go anywhere near that. Then I realised, so for me it was like an amazing night, but it was just because my brain was a bit supercharged and I could think and like all these other things. But for them, they went somewhere else compared to I. So for me, it was minor. But so the second night, I've ingested 4 more. I'm thinking it's going to be amazing. And I get some slight visuals at the beginning. But at this point, the lines aren't as thin as defined. They're wider, they're blurred. The colours aren't as, again, defined.
It's weird. It's supposed to be like sounds like shrooms, because when you do shrooms the second night, you've got your body's built up a tolerance to it, so you need to do way more, and you don't see as much. It's not as intense, so maybe you need like a few nights break.
For me, it was concentration. I don't think, because I asked the same question: does it like diminish, and so you've got to increase the dose again? Thinking of mushrooms, and they said not much. So, or no, it shouldn't affect it that much as far as tolerance. But for me, and it was like, it's because I expected it to be badass, and the fact that I'd had a large amount, that was everything. I didn't need to work at anything. So I didn't sit down, I didn't meditate, I didn't concentrate on my breathing, and I didn't try to get myself into a spot where I had on the first night. And so the answer is in the first night, the first half hour, 40 minutes, I was concentrating on my breathing. I was actually trying to but keep my eyes closed and kind of focus and not. So it requires a real conscious effort of coming into it. At least it did for me. And so I got some colours early on, and it was the second night was nowhere near as good as the second, even though I had 4 or 5 times more.
See, it's interesting because when you're on mushrooms, you can, your brain's trying to control the experience, but you can kind of meditate on something. The longer you stare at something, the more you get into it, the more it moves and all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like it's the same thing with ayahuasca. It sounds like you had a low dose overall.
Yeah, I think.
Which is why you'd have to do the meditation in order to really bring it on, get yourself into the right headspace, because it's like letting your brain let go. But I believe that like with some trips that people have, and it's whether they're used to psychedelics or not, I guess, but some people have it where it's uncontrollable. So it sounds like overall you had a weak dose, which just means you would have had to have put in a lot of effort. And if you didn't do that the second night and assume the dose would be strong enough when it wasn't, that's why you didn't have the, which is crazy really to think that you had the same stuff that American guy had, the guy who had the shirt, and then he had this, I mean, imagine him on a strong dose.
Yeah. Basically, I think they had like 1 or 2 cups or something early years, but 2 of them tapped out pretty early on, and they were screaming like, I wouldn't say children, but not far off.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. It's genuinely
screaming for
terrifying.
the mother.
Well, you haven't had it. The way to describe it to people, because I've had situations like that. I haven't been in that bad a state, but I've had terrifying situations on psychedelics. And I look, first off, I always glad I had them. I needed them for a reason. Needed to have it because it's something you haven't worked out in your life, basically. But imagine being in the only way I can describe it is when you're in a really bad nightmare and you're terrified. It's like that, but you know it's not a nightmare. You know it's reality, so it's even more terrifying. And you also have this thing of, because you know you've taken something and your brain has changed, and it's the first time in your life that it's changed. Most often when you dream, you don't really remember it past then half an hour after you've been awake. So it's not a reality. This is reality, and it has changed for you. And that's why a lot of people really freak out, because you have the thing you're experiencing as well as the dread of, I did this to myself, and what if I never go back? What if my mind never? What if this is reality from now on? That's why it becomes hauntingly terrifying. For people.
Well, with my dad,
which I love.
He had like a hyperglycemic attack, but I wasn't aware of it, and I came down at like 3 a.m. He was in his underpants, and he didn't know who I was. He didn't recognize me, and at that point, my heart just went. My heart was like,
what happened? He had a what?
Hypoglycemic attack. So when your sugar levels go too high or low.
Oh fuck!
And then it's confusion. Hysteria, then it's like you can basically slip into coma and die.
Fuck.
I mean, you're a few degrees away from death, basically, unless you get action. But I didn't know what was happening. So he's looking at me. He had his jacket on, his underpants, and he just looked confused. He was trying to get out the door, and I was like standing in between him and the door. And he was at this point, like, I thought he just got nuts.
Yeah,
he's never coming back. And he was, that's it. But you hear about it, it's just like, oh, he was a good day. But that day he went, and that was it. Like. Over, and he goes, but my sister came down like with the noise, and she realised what was happening and gave him some orange juice.
She
knew.
The
minutes it brought him round, but I didn't. I reacted badly to it. I literally thought he'd gone nuts. My heart was like, terrifying. But again, similar to the ayahuasca, where you think, God, am I coming back from this?
Am I coming back from this? Yeah.
Is this it?
All right. So what was so you did how many nights of ayahuasca then?
Should have been 4. So that was the second ceremony where my body's starting to just really react. Like I said, the smell, the thought was making me balk. But the problem was the following day in the morning, we had to go down for our second medicine, which was what they prescribed for our ailments. And this was like a shot glass of...
Jeez, you still get the reaction from it now?
It's like drinking. It's like a bad experience with alcohol.
Yeah, and then
when you're
smell
young
of
and
it
you can't the thought or anything. But it does. It's got a real physical. My body physically was reacting. So second night reacted. Third night I opted to sit out, and at that point I didn't think I was going to do any more ayahuasca again, or at least I thought my body couldn't take it, or it just was refusing to keep it down. So I asked if I could sit in the ceremony with the others and just like be kind of separate. Maybe I'll have a little sip. So I sat in the ceremony with basically everyone else, pretty much doing it. Actually, one of the lads who had the bad experience the first night, he wasn't doing it again, I don't think. But third night, it was quite a relaxing night, actually, just more observing kind of what was kind of going on and around. And on the final day, basically, they gave us an option of the following morning of doing a ceremony on our own hut, alone.
In the morning?
Yeah. Like
so
9 in the morning. Yeah. And this is only like 8-10 hours after you'd finished the night before. So I didn't do the third session the night before, but I did want to do the morning session.
Yeah, so you'd have you'd have sunlight, which would just be insane.
That's that photo. That's me. That's on ayahuasca. So the shaman about 9 in the morning comes around with the fucking jug. Fucking jug with a shot glass, and he does this chants, and the chanting's actually really cool. I by chance lent my microphone to the American guy who audio recorded the ceremony, the last ceremony, where I was puking my nuts off. So I need to get the footage. I think there'd been some kind of like disturbance with him and his other American mate where they're not quite friends anymore. But like, he had like a decent camera, but he had like 3-4 hours of the audio. And so you'll have me vomiting on it, and so you'd actually get. So to try and get it from. He has put a video on YouTube, but that's his reaction to the camp. It's not actually the audio of that particular instance.
Asking for it.
So I did the third one. So Shem comes down. I don't want to do a lot at this point. Well, I wanted to do more, but at this point, again, the smell and him and approach, I'm balking. And, so it's worse than it was the second night, and the second night was bad. At this point, I forced myself to do 1 cup, and was it slightly more? It was a full cup, and at that point, so I'm not going serious. I just want to relatively, I would say, subtle.
And you've had a night off as well, yeah.
Yeah. So he kind of leaves. So I feel like a little bit sick. Then there is colours. Then I definitely feel fucking drugged up. And there's a perception change, but no colours whatsoever. Anyways, I was just too distracted. My eyes were open. I'm looking at shit. I'm thinking at shit. At that point, I'm just not mentally. I haven't put myself in the right place to fucking do it. And then, God, after a few hours, he came around and asked if anybody wanted another one. I already puked up a few times. I didn't. And then.
He's just like...
For some reason, I felt randy, and I ended up having a wank in the tambo. Basically, that was it, because I hadn't had a wank, because you're not supposed to wank or anything before the experience. So the fast is food, alcohol, diet, no wank or anything. For some reason, I felt randy, so I had a fucking...
What were you summoning up?
What's that?
What was the thought process?
I don't know. I think I was just like, fucking, something came upon me.
There's nature.
Yeah. I was like, But I think it was just like natural. I guess if you leave it past a certain week or anything, with me, I've naturally got a... reaction where your body just says, get the poison out.
It's been brewing for days. It's been brewing. Fucking hell, man, that sounds mad. I've wanted to do it since I started traveling.
YouTube ones, there's people like do their reflection ones, so they can probably do it better than I. And so for me, it was amazing, especially the first night, but it wasn't what I expected it was going to be. But what should you expect it? You shouldn't expect it to be anything. And I think that was one of the mistakes to be the guy who had the bad reaction the first night. He had all these, this is going to be this, and the other. You don't know what it's going to be like. Yeah. It's going to be different for everybody. And for me, my journey might have been just thinking about my grandmother I'd never seen before. Maybe that was my experience.
Yeah.
You don't know if you're missing out on something amazing or you're going to force it. So maybe it was still changing for me. So I definitely improved my diet since I've got back. And so...
Well, you say it was one of the best nights of your life.
I think it's up there. Yeah, definitely.
Well, so that's all that matters.
Oh, it's freaking beautiful. And then there was love. Basically... I know that was the San Pedro. San Pedro, I felt love. Everyone felt love. Did you feel love?
Yeah, well, that's mescaline, isn't it? Yeah. That's a crazy experience.
But I had, unfortunately, the mescaline had a similar effect on me, so my body didn't like the taste at all. And, so I managed to get the first cup down. This is like high in the mountains, quite a while later. Then I tried a second, and then everyone's like, don't puke up in front of us, you make us all puke up. And so I just jumped down a rock, but I just couldn't keep it down.
Don't ruin my high, man. He's puking up.
I'm leaning off, trying to do it out of sight, but yeah.
It's weird how people don't want you to puke up in front of them there, but if you go to the ayahuasca camp, it's we only it's a bodily function.
Get your sick bucket.
Yeah, it's a bodily function. Get used to it. Because you became accustomed to vomiting daily, whereas I can't remember the last time I vomited. Especially
communally in front of everybody, just don't be ashamed about it. But it's an essential part of the thing. But that aftertaste initially, it's like the shit's coming down your nose and the various other ones.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, we're gonna have to. It's definitely. You want to go back, right?
I'll do back. The way to do it for me is not the week and just do get a place which is cool. Get a shave it. If you can go to Mexico, it's supposed to be good. Mexico is supposed to be fucking fantastic. But just 1 or 2 days. And then for me, I didn't get the benefit of starving myself and whatever it be for a week. I mean, for me, I had a really great night on my first one. I was respectful. I wasn't running around like joking or making any noise or fucking around with anybody. You can still do that just doing a one-off session. That's why the cost thing is a big thing. You can. $900 I think I paid. Plus we had a separate tour on the Amazon. So we had an optional tour for $100, which is a lot for the local money. But we went with the shaman.
Get a nice shirt for that.
Basically we had a high-speed boat tour for a day. So basically we went up the Amazon. So we actually went into the Amazon proper. Went to some Monkey Island. So it was a reserve some guy had built. So all the monkeys they rescue in the markets, which are basically being sold to capture, they release on this island. So you turn up and these monkeys just start swarming you, climbing on you.
All friendly though.
Really, generally the younger ones they keep the adults separate. So the young ones, they allow to basically interact with the people. When they become adult, they become potentially more aggressive, so you don't interact with them. So it's just baby monkeys just climbing all over you. All different varieties. It was the smallest one in the world. It was the miniature... Fucking what was the name of it? But fucking literally tiny.
Jesus.
Fucking... What was the
size
name?
of your hand?
Oh, smaller. Oh, God, what was the name? Smallest primate on Earth.
Jesus.
Then we went to another place where we saw basically an anaconda, some other wildlife, and like basically cages, which wasn't particularly pleasant. Our American mate like picked up the anaconda, which was we actually got in the cage with it. He was like, yeah, get in there.
How big are we talking for the anaconda?
It wasn't massive. I mean, it was like 15 feet. 15, 16
Yeah.
feet or something. But it was relatively, it didn't look to be happy, but the dude's picking
Swallow
it up.
two of me.
Holding it. Then it's like, I didn't do that. I didn't want to
How thick are we
bum it
talking?
out.
It's girth.
It was relatively thin. I think it was a female. I mean, bigger than that. Wider than that hat.
Yeah.
But I think it was off season. I don't think it'd eaten, and it wasn't particularly the best condition. Then they went to a piranha farm, which is pretty cool. They gave us some food to feed the piranha, and then they're saying it's not like James Bond-esque. They're not going to strip you to the bone.
Yeah.
But then there's another one with these like giant, like kind of catfish type things, and we didn't really realize what they are. And he goes, throw something in, and basically German guy who was our facilitator, he explained the story of the year before where he'd fallen into this lake with these giant catfish, like 1,000-pound catfish, but there's loads of them. And he goes, but he was explaining to the group, and he goes, all right, get down, and basically give the fish a stroke, but he fell in. Oh, that was it. He slipped in, so his head and torso basically went into the water. Somebody grabbed him, but all the group thought it was him being a showman. Just like, watch it. Oh, wow, isn't that cool? That he's like struggling, like trying to push himself or like try and get out of the water. And he's like, unplanned is. But when we saw these fish and they come up, and this head comes up from the water about that wide, and then there's another one next to it. So there's just like this skull,
like 2
comes
foot,
up,
3 foot wide.
at least. They're huge. I mean, huge. And he goes, but passively you can tap them on the head, but they were so dense. I mean, they just dense. You could feel like they were
They
weighty.
don't bob in the water when you touch them.
Oh, they're fucking huge, man. Then we went to another place where they had natural sugarcane processing. So we processed some sugarcane. It was just a series of like wooden wheels.
Yeah, we had the same in India. It was
similar
great.
kind of ones.
Tastes so good.
I had a little drink. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, we had that constantly in India, man. It was one of our favourite things. This guy put a little bit of like a salt or like a powder into it, and it made it even better. It was unreal. This sweet and salty.
Then we went to another place with some high trees, another like a high point. In fact, we can go to it in a sec. So this is the tambo. That's the beast tree.
That's a tree.
That's a single tree.
It's like you're standing on stone there.
No, it's a shit camera, unfortunately. Yeah, the greys, but that's a single tree.
Fuck. Oh, you see the moss there? Fuck me.
But that was one of the biggest trees in the area, so whatever it is, we travelled for about an hour to get to the
Outrageous.
bit of footage. I think I got the shits from this. Basically, I don't know why I did it, but I got the shits a few days later. I think I might have some food, a mixed kebab.
Oh, you didn't actually lick that?
Yeah, I did.
Sick, man. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I definitely want to go back. Well, we want to go back. I want to go there if you want to go
There's the
back.
gem dude, so that's Juan. That's Chris's mate. He's a good guy. But apparently all the camp's gone tits up since it left. Something went wrong.
Some
died. Guy left, and somebody else happened, and it's all went tits up. Well, put it this way: as we left, there was 5 of us on our camp, so that's $5,000 for the guys.
Yeah.
The new intake. So we were there as the new intake turns up, and there's only 2 old dudes as well, unfortunately.
Holy shit. All right, should we break and then we'll come back for the Inca Quarry?
Oh dear.
Pause.